Many people have been using Nintendo Switch Online since it launched in September 2018. In addition to the current membership, we'll be adding a new membership plan. As a part of this new plan's content...
What? Oh no. No. Fuck you, Nintendo, no. Alright. Guys, I got a level with you. I fucking called it. Super Mario 3D All-Stars was a sham of a collection. 3 games, all well over a decade old or more, for $60, not all of which were even in HD, and with limited emulation options. I was not making YouTube videos when that was announced, but the first thing I thought when that collection was revealed to have a limited run was, they're gonna release this fucker on Switch Online too, aren't they? And sure enough, here Nintendo is, serving up the same fucking release of Super Mario 64 alongside a new pay hike in their shitty online service. What is Nintendo Online? A fucking scam, that's what it is. On my channel, I usually prefer to make well-researched and well-edited long-form content, but today, I'm gonna say fuck that. Here's an angry rant on Nintendo Switch Online and why it sucks. First of all, the service is meant to be an online gaming platform wherein Nintendo shakes its customers down in exchange for the ability to play their games online. A feature that used to simply come standard with having an internet connection. So you would think that any updates to it would be there to fix the many glaring issues there are with the online service itself, such as the terrible servers, the constant disconnects, and the inability to do simple online interactions such as messaging and game invites. You know, the stuff I could do on my fucking Xbox 360 back in 2007. I still have this white piece of shit, and guess what? The online still works better than the motherfucking Switch, a console still sold and supported by Nintendo. Fuck, I recently rebought a PS3 and played some Lost Planet 2 again, and guess what? The network still works better than Smash Online ever will. Why are these dinosaurs from 2 fucking generations ago better at running online games than a console built and sold in 2017? Well, Nintendo Online was never about providing a service for Nintendo's fans. It was about gouging them out of their every last penny so that Miyamoto could fund his new Mario movie and a failing theme park that opened in the middle of COVID season. So how does Nintendo manage to get people to buy into this paywall when it doesn't even provide working online play in the first place? Nostalgia baiting, that's how, yeah! Pay $20 and we'll let you play Super Mario Bros. 3, you fucking nerds. Then that didn't work quite so well because, say it with me, most NES games are bad. I love Zelda 1 to death, all of you know that, but what I also said at the end of my video on it was that its biggest flaw is its inaccessibility. It is very hard for any modern gamer to get into a game as old as the first Zelda game. And that's my favorite NES game. Don't even get me started on all of these other titles that no one should ever play. Hell, I like some of these games even, but I would still never suggest Ninja Gaiden to anyone. These games just have not stood the test of time the same way that their successors have, making the online services library a hard sell. So it was out with the old and in with the new, yeah! Everybody loves Super Metroid, right guys? Oh, Link to the Past! Hey Octo, when's the video coming out? Soon, kids, soon. I just gotta wrap up this 40-page honker of a script and we'll be there in no time. Oh, but yes, nostalgia is a cruel mistress, and the Super Nintendo is the world's premier exporter of nostalgia, right behind Star Wars and the Cold War. What better way to get people to pay for your failing online service than to spruce it up with just a tad of nostalgia? What? Fix the servers? No, that could never work. So nostalgia it is then. Oh, and it worked like a charm. People actually started to think the service was worth it. Like Neril, my favorite YouTuber whose name rhymes with sterile. And right he was. 40 or something odd games from Nintendo's golden years all for 20 bucks a year? Why, that's just wonderful. And the games were coming out at a rapid pace too. So how many games are on the service now? Oh. So, like, nothing has changed since the release of the SNES library? Okay, well, did they improve the online? No, they did not do that. Huh, It was at this point that many customers were hoping for something more to spruce up the deal a little bit. Maybe they could start adding N64 or GameCube games. Well, that dream seemed just about shattered with the release of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. After all, how could Nintendo possibly release the same game on the same console twice and through two separate pay options? I mean, don't they have a responsibility to release their products with some level of dignity and caution so as to not make customers feel cheated out of one purchase by introducing another better one? Apparently not. Hey, Zelda! Everybody loves Zelda, right guys? Yep, as an old Chinese proverb goes, wherein the ocarina of time shall flow, so the money will go. Confucius. Yeah, release Ocarina of Time and people won't care how much more money they'll have to pay. That's why it was the very first thing they showed before announcing the pay hike. Oh, and they even include Majora's Mask for all two of you who think it's better than Ocarina of Time. Is it wrong that Nintendo wants to make money off their past products? No, I don't think so. I'm an American, so capitalism's in my blood and causes clogs in my arteries. But is it wrong to release a product, put a cutoff in its production to encourage sales, then release it again in another format that would have discouraged the purchase of the previous product in order to double dip on sales from both the superfans who purchased the original product, as well as the skeptics or casuals who didn't fall for the cutoff date bullshit to begin with? Or did I just answer my own question? For those of you questioning why I have such a problem with the price hike bait and switch, answer me this. How much money do you think it costs Nintendo to put up 7 games, all of which are over 2 decades old, on an emulator for online Switch subscribers? Well, we know the answer for one of them is $0, but beyond that, considering that all of these games except one were released on the Virtual Console, the answer is still, realistically, $0. Emulation's main issue is reverse engineering the source hardware that the software in question originally ran on. From there, the process is rapidly made simpler, with only a few odd cases providing trouble for the emulation community. Nintendo does not even need to do this because they own the rights to the original hardware, and thus have no need to work blind while constructing their emulators. They have the source code right in front of them, so that's a non-issue for them. Emulators have been providing the same and better services than Nintendo does today for over the last 20 years, and they do so while providing every game ever made as an option to the player, for free. Nintendo can't even be bothered to provide 7 games for a service that you're already paying for without adding a price hike to compensate them for their non-efforts. Why am I being so hard on Nintendo? Because they fail to deliver solid hardware anymore. My Joy-Cons are absolutely fucked, and I had to pay $80 for a new pair, which it in itself is now liable to break at any moment. I own a Nintendo 64 controller from 1997 that still functions perfectly to this day, and it was $50 back then. When I go back and play Metroid Prime or Wind Waker on the GameCube, I am still floored by how well those games have held up visually. It's hard to believe this, but there was a time when Nintendo was a leader in video game graphics, and their products were neck and neck with the very best that came out from Microsoft, Sega, or Sony. Today, I boot up Mario Golf, and Donkey Kong's model looks about as detailed as he did back in 2007 on Mario Kart Wii, but this time in HD. How wonderful that Nintendo finally had the decency to include 1080p in this console generation. And finally, when I play Smash Bros. Online, I am reminded of just how awful the online was back in 2007 on a console from 2 generations ago. Except now, I have to pay for it. And beyond that, I now have to pay extra in order to continue receiving updates to the services granted by said service. This is despite the fact that I had already bought the NES and SNES Classic consoles, thus rendering these services completely useless to me. Now, when they are finally offering games that I don't already own through another Nintendo product, they demand extra in order to receive them, and worse still, the online service I'm supposed to be paying for still won't fucking operate correctly. If all of these reasons don't make it clear why I'm so mad about this right now, then I don't know what to tell you. Nintendo has lost its soul, its wit, and its edge. There was once a time when Nintendo would compete with its rivals on a toe-to-toe basis, when the graphics of the newest Zelda or Metroid game gave the newest Halo or Final Fantasy a run for its money, when you could smack a GameCube with a hammer or use it as a dumbbell without worry of it breaking on you, when you could spike your GameCube controller or shit, use it without worrying that the stick will drift. And there was a time when Nintendo was content to make new games, not just profit off their old ones. Just look at how Nintendo fans react to new Nintendo releases. Pokemon Breath of the Wild, or Kirby Odyssey, because that's all Nintendo needs to do now. Remind its player base of a better product it once made, and they'll lap it up without a second thought. I am tired of Nintendo constantly getting a pass from fans and critics alike because of their legacy. A legacy they are now trying to monetize in dubious ways. I want to see a Nintendo with the capacity and the drive to once again compete as a relevant first-party studio. One that makes rock-solid hardware and software. I'm tired of every new Nintendo release disappointing me with its low-res graphics, and I'm tired of seeing 25-year-old games like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 being resold as spoonfuls of sugar to help the shitty medicine that is Switch Online go down. Because that's all this Nintendo 64 emulator is. A way to convince people to give Nintendo their money on a yearly basis in exchange for emulated products they had running on the Wii a decade ago. Products that have been remade or re-released so little as a year ago. If Nintendo wants me to buy Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time or Skyward fucking Sword again, I expect there to be some changes that justify that purchase, and not just a bundle with other products that make the purchase worth it. Stop reselling my games to me, I already own them, and start making new ones again. Stop giving me 1080p up-reses that I could run on Messin or Dolphin, and start actually remaking these games. I have to emulate your games through some of these services just to capture them in 1080p for my videos, and I would be happy to purchase them through an online storefront, like what Sega does on Steam, but you're too stuck in the 90s tech-wise to ever figure that out. I'm not going to buy the same product on a new system every time you start your emulation library over from scratch. I will either play it on the original hardware, which I own, or play it through a more convenient and better emulator than what you're offering. In conclusion, fix your online, Nintendo.